So to finish off this night, I wanted to talk about something that I discovered last week and have immediately bought into. And that is Comixology Unlimited. So for those of you who don't know and haven't heard yet, Comixology, which is, the app and website and everything that a lot of people, millions of people use to get their comics, right? To get their comics digitally, I should say. And I don't know if it's the most popular website slash app out there that provides this service, but it strikes me as possibility that it is the most popular. I don't know for sure though, so I don't want to say it's the most popular out there, but it's a fairly popular service, and it just got interesting. It got very interesting with their Comixology Unlimited service because, well, let me just put it this way. Comixology Unlimited is essentially Netflix for comics. So Netflix, you subscribe to it for a certain amount of money, $10 a month, and you get access to a variety of different movies and television shows, some of which you might not otherwise have known about, some of which you might not be able to see any other way, kind of thing, you know what I mean? That's Netflix. I've done a bunch of videos about Netflix. I'm a huge supporter of Netflix, and I have always been a supporter of Netflix. I've been subscribed to them for at least a decade at this point. I feel like it was like in 2005 or 2006 when I originally subscribed to Netflix on the DVD plan. And I've been using their digital plan as well since that first came out. When it first came out, that was just a free thing that they offered for free, right? And now they're charging $10 a month because they got something good and they know it. But we've seen through the history of Netflix what that kind of a program can do, what that kind of a service can do to the media world around it. So when I say that Comixology Unlimited is the Netflix for comic books, that should immediately in your mind spark some ideas. That should immediately get in your mind, look what Netflix did to movies, to the world of movies and TV. What is Comixology Unlimited going to do to the world of comic books? Well, I would like to share with you my personal beliefs about this, my personal feelings about this, because I know a lot of people have been saying some negative things about it, and I know that there are a lot of negative things about it, but ultimately I think it's going to be a positive thing. I think it's going to be a very good thing for the comic book industry. So first things first, the first reason that I think that this is going to be a big hit and that it's going to be an important thing in the comic book industry is because the comic book industry right now is kind of, like, I wouldn't say it's dwindling, but when you look at the sales numbers, I mean, there are some comics that are making, that are selling a lot of comics. But when I say a lot, I don't mean millions of copies every week. I mean, like, tens of thousands of copies, or even hundreds of thousands of copies if you're lucky. But, that's the top five. The top five will do very well in terms of selling a bunch of copies. But what you have to remember when you look at the number of copies sold is these copies are being sold at $4 a piece, typically. So, you take that number and you multiply it by 4, and then you factor in the cost of actually putting it on paper and printing it and all that stuff, and then the cost of all the people who helped to publish it. And then when you factor all that in, the authors and the artists, they don't get paid very well. Even if they do a really good job, even if they work, the artists I know will sometimes work, 20-hour days in order to get this stuff done in time because, they've got a time limit. They have to get the artwork done within a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, thereabout, or sooner than that even. So, they don't have a lot of time to dilly-dally. They don't have a lot of time to get this done, and it takes a lot of time and effort to actually do a good job and warrant continuing to get paid to do that kind of thing. So you, first of all, you really got to love that job because you're not going to be paid well and you're going to be forced to work really fucking hard at it. So when you factor in how much they're getting paid with traditional comics, I actually had Brian Bendis himself tell me in a class that I took with him that he was very excited about the prospect of things like Comixology. He was very excited about the prospect of digital comics because he knew that it would be an opportunity for comic creators to earn more money, for the writers and the artists to earn more money off of that. Because when you take out the costs of printing, suddenly more of the money can go to the artist, more of the money can go to the writer, and they ultimately make more money. However, because there are so many people out there, diehard comic fans, who have been comic readers for several years, they don't want to drop their traditional format of comics. They don't want to go the digital route because they're sticklers for the original, printed comic. They want the printed comic. They want that in their hands. I will not say anything negative about that. Of course, there's no problem with that. Well, I guess there kind of is a problem with it, but whatever. It is the kind of thing, like, it's just personal preference. If that's your preference, then that's going to be your preference. And, there's no qualms that I have with that personally. I feel like, whatever floats your boat, go that way. If it gets you to read a comic book, then good. It did the trick. But that's actually one of the reasons that I think Comixology Unlimited is going to be a great thing. At $5.99 a month, it is more affordable actually than Netflix. And you get access to thousands of comic books, graphic novels, and manga. So it's actually a really good deal, especially when you consider the kind of stuff that they actually have up there right now. So it's a very good deal, and that is going to introduce a lot of people to comic books. Personally, in my opinion, I think that might happen. I can foresee a scenario where parents want their kids to be able to read something and their kids don't want to read anything because of boring words on a page, blah blah blah. They might be more interested in comic books, but it's not every day that you can go to the comic book store, and even if you even do have a comic book store in your neighborhood, it's not every day that you can go to a comic book store and pick up a few issues here and there for your kid. And even when you do, it doesn't take long for them to read through that issue, so it doesn't provide them a whole lot of entertainment. It doesn't take them out of their other digital stuff that they're doing, video games and movies and television and all that stuff, and phone games and all that stuff. It doesn't take them out of that world for very long, right? So if they're so attached to this digital world as the younger generation is, then what better way to get them to read if they don't want to read things that are in a traditional format? What better way to get them to read than with digital comics that are affordable? Pay one monthly fee, $5.99, and you don't have to worry too much about, well, can I afford to have them buying all these comics? You can. They're not buying the comics. You're paying $5.99, and they're borrowing comics from the selection of unlimited comics that they have on Comixology Unlimited. So it's actually a really good deal for parents who are trying to introduce their kids, either introduce them to comics or to get them to read more. And I think that it's going to introduce, quite frankly, a entirely new audience who wouldn't maybe have previously considered reading comic books, but now that it's kind of affordable for them to consider doing that, they're going to start reading more comic books because of this. And I think that's a good thing because of the particular platform of Comixology Unlimited. And I think that would be my second point there, back there, about that, introducing a new audience. My third point here is that Comixology Unlimited is specifically designed in such a way that they typically only offer like the first few issues of a series, or they might even go so far as to offer like 10 to 15 issues of a series, or maybe the first volume or first few volumes of a series of comics. But then after that, you have to pay to read the rest. So if you're concerned that, oh, people are getting all these comics for $5.99, what incentive will they have to buy any other comics? Well, if they get hooked on a good comic book that they got to read for free, or they got to read for $5.99 through Comixology Unlimited, if they get hooked on a good series, then they're going to keep paying to keep reading that series, in theory at least. So potentially you're introducing a new crowd, a new audience to your comic books, for one thing. For another thing, you're giving them the opportunity to essentially try before they buy. And if they try it and they like it, then they're probably going to continue buying that particular comic book. And that means you can actually increase your revenue. So sure, out of the $5.99 a month, you're not going to see a huge percentage of that. You like one guy putting his comics up on there, one publisher putting their comics up there. They're not necessarily going to see a huge percentage of that $5.99 a month, you know? However, because of the opportunity that this represents for introducing comic books to an entirely new audience, to an entirely new generation, there is a unique opportunity inherent in that to essentially use this as a form of advertising to let people try a little bit of something. Kind of like with, you know how on Amazon, when you go to look at a book and you're like, I'm thinking about getting this book, but I don't know for sure. And they have this click here to read some of the book kind of thing. So you can actually check out some of the book a little bit. You read a little bit for yourself and try it before you buy it, essentially. I mean, that is, I feel like, what they're doing in a sort of way with Comixology Unlimited. They are allowing people to try things before they buy it, and if they like it, then they're going to keep reading on. For instance, I've been using Comixology Unlimited since I first found out about it this week, or last week, I should say, at this point. I've been using it since then, and I have to say, I'm hooked, and I'm already hooked into one of the comic books that I've been reading, which is the new Ghostbusters. I had not previously read it. I had not previously been interested or too interested in reading it. I mean, I might have been interested in checking out like a collected volume at some point, but I wasn't interested in reading like individual, comic books of this. So when I did this, they gave me a free trial of Comixology Unlimited because I'm an Amazon Prime member, right? And when I took advantage of that and I started reading these new Ghostbusters comic books, the new Ghostbusters, I immediately got hooked. So good. The writing is so good. It feels like they just popped off the screen, except it's not just that. It feels like a continuation of like Extreme Ghostbusters and all that stuff. It feels like a continuation of everything, actually, from the Ghostbusters lore, I should say. And it just is so well written, so well crafted, and I'm enjoying the fuck out of it. So even if they don't have every single issue on there for free through Comixology Unlimited, I can almost guarantee that once the free issues stop, once they stop giving it away for free, I'm just going to continue on to the next issue and buy it myself. Pay for it in full. It's worth it, you know? And that's the thing. It's introducing me to a comic book that I otherwise would not have probably gone out of my way to read, and now I'm hooked. It has the opportunity to hook a lot of people into buying comics that they might not have otherwise bought. So when you sit here and you say, yeah, out of the $5.99, you're not going to be making a lot of that money. When you say that, it's like, of course not. But you have to look at it as a form of advertisement as well. You have to consider the possibility, the very likely possibility, that people are going to use Comixology as a method of trying something before they buy it, and if they like your comic book that they read for free or initially through Comixology Unlimited, they're going to keep reading it even when they can't get it for free. I mean, look what I did with it worked with Netflix. I see things that I like on Netflix and then I go buy the physical release of it. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't I continue to buy issues of a comic book that I enjoy that I discovered through Comixology Unlimited? Like, it only makes sense. And I feel like a lot of people are going to be doing the same thing that I'm doing with Comixology Unlimited here. They're going to take the same approach. Well, I like this comic so much from reading it through Comixology Unlimited that I'm just going to keep buying the issues. And suddenly, these older issues probably that weren't selling as well, suddenly they're selling a lot better because you advertised your product and more people who normally are not able to afford a lot of comic books have discovered this comic book through Comixology Unlimited. And because they discovered it through Comixology Unlimited at a fair price, they are now hooked and they are now buying all these back issues that you otherwise might not have made much money on. So you say that, well, you're not making a lot of money off of the $5.99. Sure. But chances are you're going to be making quite a bit more money overall when those customers who are buying into Comixology Unlimited reach the end of their free preview, essentially, and just continue to buy your comics. So, yeah, I feel like there's a really good opportunity for something like that to happen with Comixology Unlimited, and I'm very hopeful for it. And ultimately, if all of this happens, if it introduces a new audience and a new crowd and a new generation to comic books, and it proves to be a successful form of try as you buy kind of thing, and a lot more people start buying a lot more comic books as a result of that because they discovered it through Comixology Unlimited, like, I can foresee a scenario where the comics industry starts going from selling the amount of comics they're selling now each month to just selling 2, 3, maybe even 4 times as much. It's a possibility. I don't think it's very likely that they're going to sell 4 times as many comics. Probably not. But, you know, if they even sold twice as many comics as they're selling now, then it would be a very good thing for the industry. And it might even save a lot of publishers that are currently suffering. A lot of publishers that have been in the market for a long time that we don't want to see going away anytime soon. So, ultimately, I am very supportive of this because I see the potential application of it. I see the potential for this to actually be a very good boon to the comic book industry, and I really want to see where it goes. If it doesn't work out, then ultimately people aren't going to. The reason it wouldn't work out is because people aren't buying into it. And if people aren't buying into Comixology Unlimited, then it's going to fail and they're going to stop offering it altogether. So, what's there to lose? It's essentially they're testing this out, and if it works good, if it doesn't, they're probably just going to get rid of it. So, there's really not anything to worry about here, I don't think. Because ultimately, you don't have to, if you're a publisher, you don't have to put that product out there for free on Comixology Unlimited if you don't want to. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that you see on there is on there because it's somewhat older content that isn't really selling that well to begin with. So they're not making much money off of this product to begin with. Why not put it on Comixology Unlimited and potentially make a little bit of money off of it, you know? And the thing is, they stand to make even more money off of it by doing that as well. Through people discovering this comic series that they put up on there and deciding that they want to continue reading it even after all the free issues that they've already read through Comixology Unlimited. I feel like I've said that phrase a million times in this video by now. But, maybe somebody should do a fucking supercut of me saying Comixology Unlimited. But you get what I'm trying to say here. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Ultimately, I'm very excited about this prospect because it allows me to check out a bunch of comic books that I, like I said, otherwise would not have checked out. I am really getting into reading digital comics, So, yeah, I've got my tablet here and I am taking advantage of Comixology Unlimited to read some really cool comic books. Yeah. And just to give you a sense of some of the stuff that they actually have on Comixology Unlimited, here, of course, there's the Ghostbusters issues that I've been reading through, but they also have here Prometheus, the Aliens Omnibus, Judge Dredd Year 1, Mars Attacks Volume 1, Escape from New York Volume 1. They've got a collection of Peanuts, I think, and a collection of Garfield here. Alien vs. Predator Omnibus. Got RoboCop number 1. They've got Adventure Time and Regular Show Volume 1. And Invader Zim here, I've actually just bought those myself. Bughouse was a free one. But anyway, they've got a bunch of stuff on here. They've also got like Usagi Yojimbo, which I'm going to check out at some point on here. And yeah, they've got a bunch of cool stuff on here. So it's hard to say, well, this isn't going to work out. Nobody's going to want this, and nobody's going to make any money off of this. Like, no, there are potential applications. There is great potential for this to make a lot of money for people who previously were not making a lot of money on these products. So, yeah, I'm very hopeful that this will be a successful endeavor for Amazon and Comixology and for the comic book industry as a whole. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that particular subject. Let me know what you think. I've actually talked about this already with one of my commenters and subscribers here on YouTube. But I'd like to hear more thoughts and more opinions on this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll leave a link in my description, more than likely I will at least, to the page where you can actually sign up for Comixology Unlimited. So, yeah. There you go. That being said, that will do it for me. I am dog tired. I don't know if you could tell by like the slurring of my voice and the difficulty I had explaining myself, but yeah, I really shouldn't do videos tired, and whatever. I'm gonna go now. Catch you guys later. Peace.